Hi, my name is Haley Jones and I am a junior here at Arizona Virtual Academy. My research project is about the Battle of Hastings and the important changes that were made in England following the infamous battle. The Battle of Hastings was an important point in England's history. On October 14, 1066, the Battle of Hastings came to an end. William the Conqueror from Normandy had defeated King Harold II and his army, making William the first foreign king of England. This would permanently affect the Anglo-Saxons in many lasting ways. These effects ranged from changes in language, arrival of the feudal system, heavy taxes, and architecture. We will further discuss these important changes as the presentation goes on. William the Conqueror's background contributed to his important role in the Battle of Hastings. He was born to the Duke of Normandy, Robert I, and his mistress Arlette. He became the Duke of Normandy when his father died in 1035. William's family was not unfamiliar to conquest. He was descended from Scandinavian origins that were known for their pillaging, plundering ways. In 1051, William went to his cousin, Edward the Confessor. Edward was a childless English king who promised to make William his heir. On his deathbed, however, Edward granted the kingdom of England to Harold Godwinson, Earl of Wessex. Many historians believe that this event was an important cause of the Battle of Hastings. King Harold II's background was also an important contributor to the Battle of Hastings. Harold was born in the early 1020s to Godwin, Earl of Wessex, and Gytha of Denmark. He had no direct bloodline to the throne of England, but Edward the Confessor was his brother-in-law. When his father died in 1053, Harold succeeded him as Earl of Wessex. After the deaths of a few older earls, Harold's power increased. In 1066, Edward the Confessor recommended Harold for the election to the crown. Edward died on January 5, 1066, and Harold was declared King of England the next day, despite William the Conqueror's claims to the throne. On September 28, 1066, William the Conqueror landed in England with thousands of troops and cavalry. William took the town of Pevensey on the south coast of England. He marched on to Hastings and stopped to prepare and organize his troops. While William and his army were planning their attack, King Harold II received news of the Norman invasion. He and his family rushed to Hastings, and the English army prepared their defenses. On October 13th, the Normans and Anglo-Saxons negotiated. William demanded that Harold give up the kingdom or let the throne be determined by the issue of a single battle. King Harold II refused to give up his position as king, and both armies readied themselves. The Battle of Hastings was a short yet bloody war. On October 14, 1066, the battle began ferociously. Both sides stood firm and fought hard, so well in fact that no one was sure who could win. Soon the Normans began to shoot their arrows into the air, so they landed on the English army's heads and killed many and injured even more. King Harold was struck by one of these arrows, hitting him above his right eye. Staging a fake retreat, the Normans led the English army right into the Norman cavalry. The English foot soldiers' ranks were in disarray, and they were unable to compete against the knights on horseback. The wounded King Harold was found and killed. The battle had raged on for a mere 6 hours, and over 10,000 soldiers of both sides perished. Following the bloody battle, William crossed the Thames and marched on to London. The city surrendered to him. William then took hostages to ensure that the surrender was kept. William's next move was to be crowned king. From then on, William the Conqueror was known as King William I of England. The Anglo-Saxon rule of England had come to an end. Language was one of the many confusing changes that came to England from having a nomadic king. William did not speak English and failed to learn the language in spite of his efforts. It was difficult for the Saxons and Normans to communicate effectively, and this affected the social aspect of the language in England. English became the language associated with the uneducated and the uncivilized. French and Latin was spoken in English courts for centuries after. New English words formed with French and Latin at their roots. As you can see in the chart, Latin and French count for more than half of the origins of the English language. These two languages make up more than half of the language we speak today. A second huge change that came from nomadic rule was the arrival of the feudal system. This was the basis of society in the Middle Ages. The feudal system was used in many parts of Europe prior to the Norman invasion of England in 1066. England's social and economic system prior to the invasion had been a relaxed form of feudalism. William brought a more refined and strict feudal system that was used in Normandy to England when he began his rule. The people were immediately affected, their homes and land were taken and used as a basis in the new system. William gave Anglo-Saxon land to the barons who had fought for him during the invasion. In exchange for the land, the barons had to be loyal to the new King of England and provide knights who would fight for William when needed. To ensure that the barons did not rise up against him, William gave them portions of the land where William could keep a close eye on them. The barons then gave land to their knights, who pledged their loyalty to fight when required, and to even raise money when commanded. The peasants in the small communities were in charge of the manual labor. They worked land and made food for their families and others. The feudal system that emerged during this time lasted for centuries to come. William inflicted heavy taxes upon the people in England and kept track of his financial resources in the Domesday Book. William wanted to raise money for the occupation and pacification of England, so he inflicted high taxes on the Saxons. In 1085 he ordered his men to complete a survey and to make note of and assess everything that everyone owned in England. This included crops, land, livestock, and tools. This way William could know how much the resources were worth and how much of it was owed to the king as taxes. The survey also recorded information about manors, estates, barons, and knights. The book was England's first tax return on record and its oldest public record. The Domesday Book was one of King William I's most famous achievements. Another medium that was influenced by Norman rule was the architecture in England. Before nomadic rule, England had very few castles. The barons and the estates wanted more permanent buildings than the hastily constructed timber fortresses that were built after the Battle of Hastings. Before the invasion, most English buildings were made of wood, due to the wide variety of timber in England's woodlands. Soon, besides poor residencies, most of the buildings in England were being made of stone. This included castles, cathedrals, monasteries, abbeys, and churches. The style can now be recognized as Romanesque, and this type of structural design is very similar to Gothic architecture. Most of these structures are still intact and can be seen today. They are often very popular tourist destinations. During the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror defeated the English king Harold II and his forces. Though it was a short and bloody battle, the event's effects on England lasted for centuries. These effects included heavy changes in the language, social system, taxation, record-keeping, and architecture. The Battle of Hastings was a turning point in England's history, since the battle resulted in the country's first foreign king, William the Conqueror, who in turn brought about changes that affected England permanently.